Hi guys, I hope you can see us this time. We're live again. Let us know if the video is working now.
And I would say we just had a pleasant interaction with the police, and what was his name again?
David Jordan, he's one of the kind of police in charge.
Yeah. He was just like, hey guys, stay safe. Nice day. Could use a few more hours of sleep, which we can all agree on.
That's what brings us together, lack of sleep.
Yeah, well, in a sense, that's part of our shared humanity. Step a little bit this way. All right.
I mean, basically, the police might be content to just kind of block the protesters here, because this is not really the main thing that they're trying to prevent. They're trying to prevent protesters getting to the square and exhibition center behind us, or behind Matt, that we're facing right now. So it's possible that they could just decide, as long as they're keeping people kind of bottled up over here, this is fine.
Well, wait, Shelley, you know what this means.
No.
We're on the other side of the police. That means it's up to us to capture the flag. What do you think, guys? Let us know in the comments below.
Should we start running towards the convention center?
Yeah. If I've learned anything from video games, it's that once we get the flag, we'll be fine, and there'll be no further repercussions.
Are you taking life lessons from Super Mario now?
Always have, Shelley. Always have. So it is raining on us right now, which is weird because it's still kind of sunny out. But yeah, I think Shelley has a good point. Like, I don't think the police really want to escalate this. And again, there's just a lot of press now. Oh, Matt has raised his yellow umbrella. It's very appropriate.
Protect the camera.
Protect the camera is more important.
Up here?
Yeah.
Get a better view?
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, so this is going to be an interesting day for us. I think we'll be out all day. Again, like, to follow what's happening here. This is a big day for Hong Kong. So to keep an eye on the YouTube channel for any lives we do throughout the day. Keep an eye on our Twitter accounts, the Instagram, the Facebook page, just to sort of stay up to the minute on things. So there's lots of little pieces of information that kind of pop up in the moment that we might forget to talk about on a live. That's good to check out. Lots of very interesting photos, and like the art that the protesters have been making has been very interesting. So you can see a lot of that on our social media accounts. Let's see.
I'm trying to see. There's a.
Shelley is like a Twitter genius. Like, she's been able to keep us plugged into a lot of what's happening.
I'm just trying to see what's happening on the other side of this.
So it's also interesting to see how protesters have used social media. They've been using apps like Telegram or WhatsApp to sort of, in a decentralized way, kind of communicate plans and do like group voting. Like, should we do this? Should we do that? Should people wear black today or white or something else? And they're using social media to kind of vote.
Could you explain what the flag raising ceremony is again?
Oh, okay. So for those who are just tuning in, today, July 1st, is the anniversary of when the UK gave Hong Kong to the Chinese Communist Party. So typically every year on July 1st, there's this, it's supposed to be a very patriotic event where, we've returned to the motherland, blah, blah, blah. So every year on July 1st, the chief executive of Hong Kong has his flag-raising ceremony at the convention center.
Well, it's not at the convention center. It's actually at the square. Very beautiful golden flower statue. That's the symbol of Hong Kong, the golden bauhinia. And then so they have it at the square. There's a dramatic skyline in the background, raising the Chinese and Hong Kong flag. Very patriotic.
But obviously this year, with so much protest happening over the past couple of weeks, there was concern that protesters would try and interfere with that, make it not as wonderful and warm and patriotic.
Well, no, I think they wanted to show up and just help sing during the flag raising ceremony. They were just afraid that there would be overcrowding, So they told, the organizers told a bunch of the student groups and people who usually participate in the flag raising ceremony that they didn't need to come this year. And
that's not an ironic statement.
No,
they told
they did tell people that not to come. They like the Red Cross, different student organizations that usually come and show up and witness it. They told them not to come, and of course the government officials are there. Carrie Lam, some
who has not been seen in like a week or two.
Yeah, well, a week. Yeah, she has to come out today for the flag raising. And then they've built like these 2 or 3 layers of humongous barriers.
The barriers are like taller than a man, definitely taller than Shelley.
That's not too hard. But they're water barriers, so they're actually filled. They're these giant plastic barriers that are filled with water on the inside, so they're very heavy, almost impossible to move.
Yeah.
And then, like, the police yesterday released a statement saying that if you are going to, do not try to drill holes in the barriers or, like, mess with the barriers.
Oh, that's a great idea.
You know.
That's a great idea. So that's what's happening. Basically, the police are trying to prevent the protesters from mucking up this very patriotic symbol of Hong Kong's unification with China. So this is terrible PR for something like this, because like even if they do manage to keep protesters away, and like official media will get like a nice shot of Carrie Lam raising the flags, if you zoom out just a little bit, you get rows and rows of barricades and rows of riot police trying to block rows and rows of the Hong Kong people. Also, it's expected later today that there will be, like usually on July 1st, there's like a pretty big rally where people march through the streets. So people kind of expect that there will be a big one today as well. So 3 weeks ago, there was a million person rally. The week after that, there was 2 million people. So everyone's kind of wondering what's happening.
How many there's going to be, but like the kind of upper, like back in 2003 or so, the organizers had estimated this was the year that the government tried to pass this like what's called Article 23, an anti-subversion law that would basically have made things that were illegal in mainland China also illegal in Hong Kong. So that was like a lot of protests around there, and they
also,
said about
like,
500,000 people came.
Unwarranted searches.
Yeah, so like they basically said 500,000 people showed up to the July 1st rally that year, parade. So we don't know. And then in 2014, which was again the year that like right before the umbrella movement happened, and there were a lot of contentious legal things going on then too, they estimated again about 4 to 500,000 people showed up. So that's kind of like the biggest that July 1st protest has been in recent years. And then like when things die down, there's just like a few thousand people. Like I think last year less than 10,000 people showed. So that's just kind of the baseline for how many people are going to be there. And now more reporters on this side of the police line.
Which is good because, as I just mentioned, I kind of consider this now a game of capture the flag. And so us on the other side of the police have the best opportunity to capture the flag. So team press.
Team press.
Team press. Pressing down on you. Shelley can't respond to that. Yeah, so things are just kind of what they are right now. What time is it?
It is 5:56.
Okay. So, again, protesters said they were going to try and be a little more closer to the area by 6:30. I heard somewhere that the flag-raising ceremony is at 8. I don't know if that's 100% true or how this is going to affect the flag-raising ceremony. And as we kind of mentioned, the Hong Kong chief executive, Carrie Lam, is supposed to come out for this. She hasn't really been seen in like a week because this has not been a very good time for her PR-wise. But then again, being the chief executive of Hong Kong has not ever been a very easy job. None of them have been very successful, often very hated. And Shelley and I were kind of joking about this earlier, but the previous chief executive, C.Y. Leung, he was really hated by people, and we thought it would not be possible for people to hate a Hong Kong chief executive more than C.Y. Leung, and yet.
So the Hong Kong University released a poll a couple days ago about, kind of like public sentiment about the government and Carrie Lam, and Carrie Lam was down to like a 23% approval rating. And the Hong Kong government was at like 18%. So that's pretty low.
Yeah. This is also really strained relations between the people of Hong Kong and the police. We were talking to Emily Lau, who was been a legislator for like 25 years. And what she was saying is that, Hong Kong has always been a very safe city, and there's always very good relationships between the public and the police. And that kind of hit a little bit of a low point during the 2014 umbrella movement when there were cases of police tear gassing protesters then. But just because of how severe police crackdown on a June 12th protest, where they fired way more tear gas cans in that one night than they did in the entire umbrella movement, which lasted like 79 days. The relation has gotten very bad. In fact, one of the major demands of protesters is an independent inquiry into whether or not police used excessive force that night. And the New York Times recently did a great interview with a young woman who, and there's video of this, where she's just kind of by herself, and then like these riot police just swarm her and like are using like these big rectangular plastic shields to just like bash down on her face. It's very, very violent, very horrible. And I believe she told the New York Times like she was afraid they were going to beat her to death. So that's why one of the protesters' demands is an independent inquiry into this. And Carrie Lamb's response to that demand is that basically there's a division of the police department that she says can do an investigation, but that's not even technically true.
Oh, there's actually an independent body that she was referring to, but that body can't investigate the police. They can only monitor
investigations
the internal investigations by the police. So they really have no ability to do an independent inquiry. Right now, we're still kind of... There's this one woman who's been walking up and down yelling.
Is that...
No.
Is she the
No.
Union Jack?
No.
Grandma?
I cannot tell from here. I don't think so.
Oh, it was also interesting. We were at a protest last night and outside of the Legislative Council, and what would periodically happen is there would be like some strange person like walking around taking video of people's faces, the protesters' faces. And this is a concern for protesters. You might see a lot of protesters wearing masks, and that's because of concern that if their faces are like caught on camera, that they could face some kind of retribution later, be sent to jail or get fired from their jobs or be expelled from school. And it's a legitimate concern because a lot of the leaders of the umbrella movement have also faced similar kind of retribution for their roles in that. So when there's some strange person taking photos and videos of protesters' faces, people kind of get a little scared. So what they do is like the protesters sort of like mass around this person, like white blood cells surrounding an infectious cell. Only instead of devouring them, they like just make the person like unable to leave, and then they kind of like force the people to like open up their phone and like show them the pictures they've been taking. And if they are taking photos of people's faces, they like on the spot demand that they delete those photos before they'll let the person go.
You think that white blood cells devour other blood cells?
No, the infectious thing that they're trying to get.
Okay.
Because they're essentially like amoebas. That's how they work. They engulf and...
Anyway, so the last night, we saw this a few times where the protesters were kind of like go surround somebody, but there was very much like they were careful to like de-escalate the situation, push people back if there were too many people surrounding it. Yeah, it was like a very interesting way to see them kind of deal with the person that they're suspected of being an undercover cop or of taking photos of people's faces, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, one of the protesters came up to us like, look, see, this is how we do things in a non-violent, peaceful way. And I mean, it is intimidating, certainly. Like, I would not want to be one of those people surrounded by all the people. And I have some photos of that up on the China Uncensored Instagram of one of the people. But so that's a lot of the concern protesters have, of sort of like these, undercover people who nobody knows taking photos of their faces. And I know some people have been asking, why do protesters wear masks? And it's to protect themselves. It's not because they're like bandits or Zorro or some kind of thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're still kind of in this like deadlock right now between the protesters and the police. I did not see it, but there are reports that the police put up the red warning flag sign once.
Also, this old Cantonese lady, I'm pretty sure, is lecturing the police. And this sort of has been a thing of like older people in Hong Kong kind of lecturing the police of like, why are you attacking our kids? This is such a bad thing. Well, obviously, police are not attacking anyone right now.
I mean, we could try to get up on that ramp to get a more overhead view if you think that's useful.
Up to you, man. I don't know.
What was that?
Sorry, I said, do we want to go up the ramp to see if we can see like more of what's going on the other side?
Let's give that a try.
All right.
So we're going to walk at a different angle on the situation. So yeah, there's basically next to where we are right now, there's a freeway overpass or highway overpass, whatever they call it here. And, fortunately the streets are blocked off, so I don't have to worry about, the whole British drive on the left side of the road thing. Former British colony,
Actually, one thing that the British gave us here that's very useful is on the street it'll tell you look down, it says look right or look left, so you know what direction to look in case for traffic.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm amazed at how unfriendly the city is towards pedestrians, but it kind of makes sense because there's just so many people and so many cars that if pedestrians had the right-of-ways, it would just be permanent gridlock. So we're kind of coming up around, and so Matt will be able to rotate the camera to sort of get a view of all of the stuff, all of the protesters. Oh, it is kind of nice to see this. So that's sort of the rows of police. And again, we've heard rumors that there are like up to 5,000 riot police around. So obviously they're stationed at different places. Last night we were kind of closer to the convention center where the flag raising ceremony is going to be, and there was lots and lots of police there. And now Matt's kind of going to see the protesters over that way.
Yeah, there's one line. It looks like they're trying not to build it up too much on this side.
Yeah, I do see in the distance some protesters carrying metal barricades and walking the opposite direction with them. They're probably trying to cover their flanks. What we saw in like other protests is how police kind of flanked the protest groups, just firing tear gas, so people would be, forced out of the way. Let's see. And again, if you're just joining us, this is all for a flag raising ceremony commemorating Hong Kong getting handed over to China. So what was supposed to be a happy, patriotic day has clearly become something very different. And so, this is going to be interesting to see where it goes from here. If anyone knows what she's saying, feel free to comment. Sounds like the police had some technical problems.
Okay, apparently there's been a fresh line of police that have appeared. So that's what the barricades were doing. There's a fresh line of police that's further down. Not this road, but that road over there. So that's why they're...
Sort of towards the water.
Yeah, so that's why I'm watching this on somebody else's Twitter feed. Okay. So that's why they've set up barricades and are pushing them that way. They've got a very ingenious method of taking those metal mills barriers that you see, in the U.S. Often police use them to line the side of the roads when there's a parade or something like that. They're very movable, so what they do is they kind of take three, lash them together with cable ties into a triangle, and then drag that formation down to build their own barricades.
Yeah, and though these barricades are very different from the barricades police have erected around the flag raising ceremony, those are they're called water barricades.
Water barriers. So they're giant. They're higher than a person.
Taller than man.
Plastic barricades, and then they are filled with water, hence the name. So they're very heavy and
almost impossible to move.
Yeah.
And apparently police have said, please do not drill holes in them, because that would be sad. I actually wonder how easy it would be to drill a hole in one of those things. But obviously, if they were emptied of their water, they'd be much easier to move.
Okay, so I'm hearing from Hong Kong Hermit, which, by the way, if you're on Twitter, you should follow him. He's one of the protesters who's been live tweeting and live streaming a lot of this.
It's at Hong Kong Hermit.
And he had just said that, because I was asking whether anybody had actually made it to the convention center where they had been planning to get to, and he said that everyone was at Ledgeco still, and now they're on Harcourt and Lungwell Roads, which are behind us, and he said that basically the police turned up and kind of blocked them in before they could move out of this area.
All I can say is I'm very happy that we did decide to stay till July 1st. When we came out to Hong Kong about 3 weeks ago, we didn't buy a return ticket. We just flew and kind of hoped for the best. We were a little concerned whether or not we would even get in to Hong Kong, but we did. And so, pretty quickly as we were here, we were kind of realizing, first we extended the trip a couple of days, and we're like, okay, we'll leave after a week or a week and a half. And then very quickly we realized that July 1st was going to be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say it's been kind of quiet this week, so
Yeah.
we have been able to actually sleep for a few days at least.
Doesn't seem to have mattered to me right now. Although during the week, protesters did, for a second time, surround the Hong Kong police headquarters, which we happened to get there both times right as it was happening, which was kind of an interesting thing. And some protesters were throwing eggs at the police building, graffitiing things. It's interesting, when we got here, outside the police headquarters, there were all these giant posters of Hong Kong police is great, join the Hong Kong police.
And there were these cute posters of kids dressed up in police uniforms and stuff like that.
And then after the first time protesters surrounded the police HQ, all of those were down.
Well, actually, they were still there the first time. Some of them had been scribbled over a little bit. The second time they were there, now they've all been ripped down, I think maybe because they were defaced too much. And one thing that's interesting people told us is that Hong Kong people don't really do graffiti. Mm-hmm. That's kind of very rare to see, and that's true. Even though we've seen them graffiti the outside of the police headquarters with some interesting language, it's still less graffiti than you see just driving down the street in the outskirts of Paris.
Or New York.
Yeah. I mean, New York's not that bad for graffiti, but yeah, I've been in European cities that are a lot worse. But yeah, there's still very mild, barely any, and just the fact that there's any graffiti is significant for Hong Kong.
Yeah. Which reminds me, on one of our down days, we went and saw Spider-Man: Far From Home. And there's some scenes in New York, and we felt very nostalgic for
Remember
New
the
York.
place we used to live? Yeah.
Oh, yes. What I wouldn't do to see good old New York graffiti and to smell.
No, I'm
smells
okay
of
with
the
not
street.
smelling garbage.
Yeah.
I'm all right. It looks like the protesters are kind of more spread out now. They're no longer in one big mass over on our side. They're probably trying to kind of...
And this is a big change in tactics that we've seen in these protests versus the umbrella movement, is you see sort of much smaller numbers of protesters being able to quickly occupy an area and block it off, and then be able to pack it up and go somewhere else very quickly, kind of guerrilla style, versus the umbrella movement, where it's just a bunch of people occupying one spot permanently, and there was no real flexibility or movement possible.
So what's interesting for us is that earlier today, how long ago was that? Half an hour ago? Not when we were kind of coming up, and then we literally ran into these riot police that are below us right now. We kind of just started following them, and they didn't say anything to us.
They were nice about it.
We were just kind of, I will cover up as Chris yawns. We were kind of just tailing them the entire way, and then as we tailed them up over an overpass and across and back down, then there were a couple hundred more that showed up, and so we just started following them, and they didn't stop us. Because I was talking to another journalist right now who's got behind the police lines on one of the other roads, and then they turned him away.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So actually, it was kind of lucky that they were just all right, said nothing.
Yeah, well, I think we're pretty agreeable folks. We also are not getting right up in their faces. Not that the other press people were. Here, I hear some shouting. We're gonna. I don't know. I don't know if you can hear that shouting with this mic, but there's a park here. We can't really see what's going on. Oh. Interesting. So definitely it seems like the white shirt, I think the white shirts are officers. Anyways, like it seemed like they were trying to de-escalate
white
the
shirts
situation.
over blue shirts. That guy actually talked to us this morning. The guy who's
Yeah, he was kind of doing like some PR, kind of just being like, stay safe.
not him. The guy that's down there right now.
Yeah, didn't he?
I cannot remember what he was telling us.
Anyways, he was being kind of polite to us. I can also see in the distance behind like a staircase over there another little group of
More riot police. on
more
that
riot
side.
police.
Yeah. I mean, this could just kind of fizzle out when the police have decided they've blocked the protesters here long enough. Basically, it seems that nobody has actually made it over to the flag raising.
Which is why I'm saying, since we are on...
Remind people why we're here.
Right. So behind us, with the sun rising against this distance, is the Expo Center in Hong Kong, and behind that Expo Center is a square where they were going to have like this flag raising ceremony called Golden Bohemia Square, which has this golden statue of this flower that represents Hong Kong. And you may have seen it, like it's like this 5-petaled flower that's on the Hong Kong flag. But protesters have made their own flag where they have like some of the petals wilting and bloody. And the flag is black instead of red, so that's the symbol of Hong Kong.
So this is the anniversary of the handover of Hong Kong to the Communist Party of China.
Back in 1997. So there's always like kind of like, so this is their Independence Day, kind of like it's their national
unindependence
Yes,
day.
yes.
I think Matt came up with that joke. It was good.
Chris is trying to goad me because I came up with it the other day on our...
Did you?
Yes.
Oh, I really remembered it as Matt.
No. Nope. Matt's shaking his head. He confirms.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, so they have this flag raising at this like symbolic heart of Hong Kong Island. And,
Hong Kong reunified with China. Glorious.
2 years ago when Xi Jinping was here for the July 1st ceremony, he like attended the flag ceremony. Every year the Hong Kong chief executive, now Carrie Lam would be there, like Hong Kong, civil groups and all this stuff. And now they are, this year, because of the protests happening, the protesters were going to try to disrupt the ceremony. They originally were going to try to stay in the square overnight, and then they were going to try to then the police closed off all of the roads leading up to except for one road on the other side of the Expo Center. And so they were going to try to get to that one road and kind of just like sing at the people going into the ceremony. But police have effectively kind of blockaded the protesters over on this side of the convention center. Because last night the protesters had a memorial service rally here.
So another interesting thing is like the kind of security that we're seeing today. There's never been this much security for a flag raising ceremony. The only time it came close to this was when Chinese leader Xi Jinping came to visit Hong Kong. So that is how sensitive this has become.
Yeah, I mean, people are saying it's basically the same amount of police. Like they're saying 5,000 riot police have been dispatched today. They had these huge barriers up. Like we saw them yesterday and the day before. They built them actually. The police built them Friday night. Maybe they started getting nervous after protesters started talking about going to the flag raising ceremony and singing the national anthem.
Because for the past couple of weeks, we've seen how protesters have been very able to efficiently and quickly occupy streets, even police headquarters at a moment's notice. So they were definitely concerned that if they didn't take preparations, protesters could easily disrupt the flag raising ceremony.
So we are kind of looking over at the protesters right now, where they're trying to hold a line both on this road and 2 rows further down that we can't see from this angle. So, and then behind us are still the police that are just kind of hanging out and blocking the protesters from going down this road.
We're walking over to get an overview of the police. Some cheering. All right, so down here you can see the riot police. And it's important to note that this is just one group of many that are surrounded different roads that would lead to the convention center and where the flag raising ceremony is, which is sort of on the other side of the convention center. So it's kind of like military tactics. And just so the New York Times actually recently came out with a very moving interview of a girl who on June 12th was like mobbed by riot police and beaten pretty badly by police. And so right in front of us, you see police with these big shields, the rectangular riot shields, maybe made out of plastic. And you can see in the video of this girl getting beaten by this group of riot police, them just like bashing her head with the bottom of it. It was very brutal.
She basically fell to the ground and was trying to cover her head, and then they were kind of like still like hitting her with the shields.
Yeah, she said she thought the police were going to kill her. But so it's very shocking how violent the police were that night, and they've been much better behaved since.
They seem to definitely be trying to scale it back. Although when we were behind the police line, we saw several police were armed with the tear gas guns and possibly the rubber bullet rifles. So they are fully armed today.
So right now, protesters were moving some. Protesters were moving some kind of thing, I don't know, like a flagpole or I don't know, something. And now police were kind of yelling at them. There's just a yelling match going on. Here comes a police bus. Can't really see into it. So it's really hard to say what's going to happen. In general, the trend has been like if it's in the daytime, things don't really get too heated, because in the daytime, then you have just, your sort of average Hong Konger coming, more people. Typically, when police will try to, like, forcibly clear protesters, that's usually very early in the morning, like at 3 a.m. or so, when there are fewer people. So the later it gets in the day, I sort of feel the less likely it is that things will get too intense. But the big test will be, like, to see what happens as it gets closer to the actual flag raising, which could happen at, I think 8 or so. Shelley, do you have some updates from the Twitters?
I'm looking at a photo from a Telegram group, which is
and Telegram is like a social messaging app protesters have been using.
Yeah, it's kind of like some more secure, I guess, than using like Twitter or something like that.
Or WeChat.
People don't really use WeChat here. It's mostly WhatsApp. But anyway, there's like a photo looking over the other road that's down there, where we were yesterday, Lungwa Road. When we kind of last night, as we were leaving the protest site over here, we decided to kind of walk down. The police had already put up barricades and closed a road that was leading to the convention center from here. So we decided to see how far down we could get, and not very far. We decided not to really anger the police that were watching us from the distance.
Yeah, there's probably at least 50 of them.
But the whole road was deserted, and it looks now like the police are kind of had moved up that road, and there's like 3 different roads that there's like a line of police all the way across, and then the protesters have built their own barricades, and they're behind the barricades. They're probably about 50 meters apart.
You just want to go see what's over there?
Yeah, I'm wondering if we can go that back street and see what's down that way. So obviously, also, while this is all happening, there's other big news of President Trump going to North Korea, being the first president to go to North Korea. So unfortunately, news continues to happen even while we're here. So there's lots of things that have been happening. The Democratic primaries in the U.S., which you will have an episode coming out about on America Uncovered.
There's like 20 police vans.
Oh. So lots of police vans.
Reinforcements are here.
So lots and lots of police present. We're basically going to try and go down this back street and see if we can get to the other side of things. I don't know if we actually will be able to get through. Should we see? What do you think, Matt or Shelley? We're kind of trying to decide if we can get to another location while still staying on the back of police, because once we're in front of police, it's impossible to kind of move around. Shelley's checking the maps, so we're just kind of exploring a little bit at the moment. We're behind police lines right now. That's how we roll. And if you're just joining us, what's happening today is it's July 1st in Hong Kong. You might be in the past still.
This is going to kind of... we're about 2 blocks away from Longwood Road. What I think was going to happen is we're going to...
Shelley's just kind of giving some map rundown.
We're here, so we're gonna.
Let's see where this goes. We might be in a good location. July 1st is the anniversary of the handover of Hong Kong to China. So every year there is a flag raising ceremony to commemorate this, and
That people don't usually care much about.
people usually don't care much about. However, with all the protests this year, there was talk of the protesters disrupting it, and so they have upped security to an insane level. Security has not been this high since Chinese leader Xi Jinping came and visited Hong Kong. So it's a massive amount of security. We're just going through some back alley streets to see if we can get closer.
Yeah.
Or
I wouldn't call it
see what it is.
alley.
You know, I'm live streaming. I'm trying to
Yeah.
make it sound exciting.
You make it sound like the triads were in Mongkok. The triads.
Yeah,
were in
yeah.
back alleys.
Yeah, we're pretty much triads. Let's see.
Okay, so here is.
So we're basically walking.
Can you stand right next to Chris?
Okay.
We're basically walking towards the convention center, which is closer to where the flag raising ceremony is. On what may or may not be an active street. Okay, there's a group of police there. We don't know what we're going to see up here. We are definitely much closer. We might be the closest ones to the flag ceremony, which is why I think we have a duty to capture the flag. So these police are wearing interesting vests that I haven't seen other riot police wear before. I don't know what that signifies. So, if they come over and start hassling us, I'm just going to say, we're just tourists. We're lost. What's going on? I mean, the press vests and press hats. Whoa. Okay. So, yes, this is basically the main road to the convention center. And let me give a shout out to Matt right now, because he is holding the gimbal for this while at the same time using his other hand to shoot footage for an episode that we'll be doing later today. So Matt is kind of killing this. He's the unsung hero. So give him a round of applause. I also want to. I also noticed that some people have donated on Super Chat. We don't really have a way to look at the comments right now, but thank you very much for donating. That's what's helped us be here in Hong Kong covering this. So thank you for giving.
So actually, what's interesting is you can see the water barriers now behind us. Those giant blue and white.
Those things
are the water barriers. You can't see them to scale because you need a person next to them to see just how tall they are, which is taller than a person. But those blue and white barriers are the ones that are the water barriers, filled with water, heavy, can't be moved. There's at least 2 lines of them before you get to the convention center, so they've really blockaded this area around it pretty well. And we can't even really see the square from here, but if I jump up a little, like past the water barriers, you can see like more police right in the distance.
Yeah, it's basically layer after layer of barrier police. Also, just an interesting thing that happened to us this week that I'll fill you in on because I don't think we've really talked about it. So a couple blocks down next to the Legislative Council, there's the People's Liberation Army garrison in Hong Kong. And then in front of that, there's like this nice waterfront park. And a section of the pier there has apparently been given to the People's Liberation Army. So this is waterfront territory of Hong Kong being given to the Chinese military. So that's, a disturbing turn of events where, pieces of Hong Kong are actually being put under direct control of the Chinese Communist Party and the military. And there was this weird way that they kind of pro-Beijing forces kind of rushed that through the legislature. So I'm just looking around, getting a sense of what's going on. We're basically deep behind police lines, which was
not the original plan.
Not our original plan, but very, very lucky for us. Basically, as we were leaving our hotel, we kind of came across a group of riot police coming over this way, and we were like, well, let's just follow them.
Follow the riot police.
Follow the riot police. I don't always recommend that strategy, so don't try and imitate us. But yeah, that basically brought us behind police lines. Technically we're more in the middle of police lines. There's going all the way back, there's more and more lines of police. So we don't know. I can see inside the convention center, it looks like there's lots of police kind of mulling around in there. I don't think you won't be able to see that on the camera. So we're going to kind of walk over towards this line. So right now we're walking a little bit away from where the flag raising will be and heading towards another line of police.
Those barriers.
Yeah, Matt's holding the gimbal that's holding this live, while at the same time using his other hand to take video of... Oh, well, so now you can see people next to those barriers, so you can get a sense of just how massive those things are.
There's a police officer who is standing on top of a kind of like step ladder, cherry picker type of thing to get to like be seen over the barriers. And you can see there's more riot police with shields kind of up behind the barriers.
To the microphone, Shelley.
So, yeah. Anyway, kind of through the slats of the barriers, we can see that there's more police gathering behind there. For some reason, they have a tent up over there, like one of those, like...
Oh, maybe just a flyer. Yeah, so that's pretty heavy duty. Like, you would... Maybe a very athletic person might be able to scale that, but it would be very difficult. I'm certainly not going to attempt it. So, should we try and get closer to the police line? Is that what you want to do?
Just looking at that helicopter.
That's probably just a normal helicopter. We've seen them.
That's a pretty large one.
It's a pretty large one. Who knows what that is? Actually, that looks like a Coast Guard vessel, too.
Yesterday or the day before, we kind of saw a helicopter kind of flying over between Hong Kong Island and Kowloon with a Chinese flag suspended underneath it. It was like a rehearsal or something for. Oh, hey, there's a drone up there now, too, taking aerial footage of what's happening.
That could be the CNN drone. We've seen that around.
Right, yeah, helicopters landing over there past the convention center.
Yeah, I wonder if that's Carrie Lam.
That's what I'm thinking.
Because Carrie Lam has basically been in hiding for the past week. And so obviously with all of the security here, I don't know. Oh, this is what we're doing? Are you getting up?
I'm just going to stand on this.
Okay. Matt is standing on a barricade, and he is a champion. So, again, Matt is not only filming this live, YouTube Live, he's also filming footage for an episode we're going to release later today. Probably we're not going to sleep today. We're going to... so there's whatever's happening here for the flag-raising ceremony, and then at 2, there's supposed to be a rally. And, the first, 3 weeks ago, there was 1 million people who came to the streets. Then the next Sunday, there was 2 million people. Nobody knows how many people are going to come out today. It's impossible to say. So this is going to be a busy day for us. And then, once the rally is done, we're going to edit together all the footage. And, yeah.
Why you stay here?
Oh, getting footage.
Stay there, outside the...
It shouldn't be stay here. Please go
Yes,
outside.
go outside, please.
Okay.
Okay.
Sure, thank you.
We'll move down that street.
Please here.
Yeah.
Please low entry. Please.
Low end? Oh,
there.
okay. All right, thank you. So Matt totally called attention to us by standing on a barricade and taking off his pants. No, that's not true.
But we were told to get with the other press. Why are we standing over here? So.
Yeah. So unfortunately, our road is coming to an end, so I think we can only get this close.
Fine.
Yeah. So I guess this is what we have to do. Oh man. Yeah, I really wonder if we're going to be able to come back to Hong Kong.
No, we'll be fine. We'll be fine.
Oh. We're on the move. So now we're getting closer to the line of police, and in back of that, the line of protesters. This is obviously a bigger line of protesters. So again, the white shirts sort of signify police. Do you want to get a shot of that guy, Matt? He's one of the... So yeah, the white shirts are sort of the officers, the kind of guys in charge. Periodically, you'll see basically the white police officers who are kind of notorious in Hong Kong. But, yeah, it's sort of going on. Da-da.
Our commander would like you to either that way or that way to go to where, because it is not safe for you to.
Okay, so we should go through the police?
Will you allow us to go through here? Okay.
Okay. All right. Okay, we'll just loop around the plants.
Well, can we walk?
Oh, we'll just walk through the plant? Okay.
How can we get through?
We'll just go this way.
Directly through, guys.
Wait, which? Wait.
Will let us through.
Okay. Hey, a police escort for China Unscensored. How you doing? Everything seems kind of calm now.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for showing us through the police lines. So if we just go through here, this is all right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So now we are heading on the other side of the police. Oops, excuse me. Thank you. Thank you. All right, so here we are. And unfortunately, there's a barricade here, so we won't be able to scale that. It wouldn't be safe.
I think we should get over there.
So let's see. Matt, where do you think we should go? So now we're in between protesters and police. I think the police have slightly better speaker technology. One thing I'll say is that it is pretty hot and humid, so I'm sure the police are not very comfortable in all their gear. And I do find it odd that the police were like, it's not safe for you behind the police. You're much safer right in between protesters and police.
The woman on the loudspeaker is talking about how the police are treating the people badly, citizens badly. I'm getting translation from a friend over Facebook Messenger.
Who is in Australia watching this, so we definitely appreciate all the help we've been getting.
Thank you, Caroline.
Caroline, mighty fine. People are saying to be safe. Thanks, we appreciate that. Do you want to go over and talk to the protesters?
We could, so we're in a good spot.
Okay.
Yeah, somebody's asking for translation.
We're kind of working on translation. People remotely are doing. I don't have a brick with me, guys. I'm not gonna do that. You know better. You know me better than that.
So the protester was just describing all of the kind of police brutality that the police have been doing to the protesters, how people were knocked down and abused by the police.
Yeah, New York Times has a good article about that that just came out yesterday, I think, with a young woman who was beaten pretty badly by riot police.
They also interviewed a guy who was hit in the stomach by a rubber bullet. Turned out he had lung cancer, so he wasn't in the greatest physical shape. So he fainted, and then he woke up as police were carrying him off and beating him. So he was that was an experience for him as well.
Jeez, yeah. So, it would be cool to kind of go over and talk to the protesters, but we're kind of staying here right now because we're in a good position in between the police and protesters. So if in the event anything happens, we're kind of in a good place for that. And by a good place, I mean a very dangerous place. But we'll get awesome footage, and that's what matters most, right, Shelley?
Yes, that's what matters most.
That's what matters most. So it's now about a little past 6:30 a.m. here. The flag raising thing we've heard is going to happen at about 8.
Or I don't know. That was the 8 o'clock was actually the alternate flag raising that the protesters were going to do down at Edinburgh Place. So I actually don't really know what time the flag raising here
I'd
is.
imagine that would be a simultaneous thing.
Maybe.
So the day's off to an exciting start. If you're just joining us, what you see here is for the July 1st anniversary of Hong Kong getting handed over to China. So it's basically treated as like this day where, it's supposed to be very patriotic, even though it's sort of an un-independence day. So there's this flag-raising ceremony they do every year. The Hong Kong's chief executive, comes out and raises the Hong Kong flag and the People's Republic of China flag. But this year with all the protests, they were concerned if protesters would disrupt it. So they have insane security here. It's basically the most security they've had since Chinese leader Xi Jinping came here. They have layers and layers of barricades. We've heard 5,000 riot police. So it's basically massive security for a flag-raising ceremony. So that really says something about the situation in Hong Kong.
The protester was just talking about how people are defenseless and the police are understanding the peaceful citizens, that the Hong Kongers are not in opposition to the police. So that's what she was just saying.
That's good. And I will say, so like on June 12th, that was a day that police got very violent. In fact, one of the demands of the protesters is an independent investigation into whether police used excessive force that night. But it seems since we've been here, it's been much calmer. Definitely, police are not like trying to target journalists or protesters like they did that one night. We even had like some friendlier police officers, tell us to be safe. Though this is definitely PR on their part. They want to, after they realize that like pepper spraying journalists and calling them, basically telling them to F your mother, they decided to be a little nicer to the press, because after they did that, loads of press came to Hong Kong.
Yeah, there's a lot of press here now, and I think more press have come in for the July 1st protests. People who live closer than us can just come in and out instead of us staying here for 3 weeks.
Yep. Today is going to be a day for Pocari Sweat, which is a wonderful electrolyte drink. They're not sponsoring us.
I was like, are you trying to get sponsorship?
No, I'm just getting a little dizzy because lack of sleep, a lot of sweat. So yeah, we're bringing to you live this. We're definitely out of the studio now.
It kind of feels weird. There's like a sudden silence on both sides. I don't think it's been this quiet since we got here. So this feels a little weird. You can also see like basically the press are just in the middle of the police.
And this is what the press does. Like basically when the press shows up in force and gets in the middle of protesters and police, things de-escalate. No one really wants to be the one who gets caught on camera doing something stupid. And as you can see behind me as well, like all of the rows of protesters, they have their umbrellas out to block themselves from pepper spray or tear gas. You see a lot of the safety helmets on. People have raincoats to protect themselves. Apparently, like getting tear gas on your skin is just super irritating. Fortunately, we have not experienced tear gas yet. And hopefully never. But, now that's interesting. That's a good idea. People have attached to balloons a sign back around that says #FreedomHK. That's the hashtag they're kind of using for this, #FreedomHK. In fact, I have to add that to my list of tags that I'm going to be using on my social media posts. So,
The only thing you can kind of hear right now is us talking.
Okay. Weird. An interesting thing happened yesterday that we didn't really talk about. Basically, they called themselves a pro-police rally, but they were all waving the People's Republic of China flag.
Was passing out Chinese flags. Yeah, so it was like in Hong Kong they colloquially call these people the blue ribbons. They're kind of like the pro-Beijing, pro-CCP crowd, and they come out and like support the police when like they were around during the umbrella movement and stuff too. But they had like a big rally out here where we're standing. That was bad.
Shelley, Butterfingers.
So they had a big rally where we're standing right now, actually, yesterday. And the interesting thing about the rally was that, like, there were mainly people in their, like, 40s, 50s, 60s. And as they walked through the kind of what was called Lenin Wall, like this area where protesters had been posting like signs and like support from other places, and like that was made famous. Same thing during the 2014 Umbrella movement. The pro-police protesters started ripping all the signs off the walls, kind of like trashing them on the ground. And
Creating a lot of litter.
yeah, and then like kind of just like kicking the rubbish around. And then they also were harassing some of the other protesters, the anti-extradition bill protesters, or they were even surrounding the press or surrounding like foreigners that happened to be around and kind of like harassing them. Like Joshua Wong was standing inside the Legislative Council building, and then there were like these photos of these like older people just like flipping him off from the other side and trying to break into the building to attack him. It was very bizarre to see this kind of pro-police, law and order type of protest that like all of these people were basically screaming at and attacking people and then causing problems that the police then needed to go and break up.
Yeah. I'm just trying to see some things getting uploaded on my Instagram. Unfortunately, internet is pretty bad, so I took some photos earlier today.
I cannot. Let's see.
Well, maybe we could, since nothing's happening, we could maybe do some questions, or...
That's good. Let's do some questions. Thanks, folks.
Okay. Shelley, you want to bring up the questions? So we'll start taking questions from you guys now, since it's kind of in a lull at the moment. We just have to pull up the app here. So, and we'll get that going. But hey, thank you for joining us. I know this is like a great time in the U.S.
Well, it's Sunday night at 6:45, so...
Yeah. Okay.
Talk to the Popo.
We did try and talk to the Popo. I asked... earlier today, there was a policeman on the loudspeaker saying something, and I asked some of the other police, hey, what's he saying? And they're like, we don't answer questions.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, oh, but like, is it like something for our safety? And they're like, we don't answer questions.
Oh, yeah, that was an announcement that the police were doing in general over the crowd. So we asked if one of them could translate. I think they've been told not to talk to the press. Even the media liaison police, who are the ones like telling us to come out here in front of the police lines and escorting us through the police lines. After they said that, they didn't really say anything to us.
They didn't say much. I asked them how they were doing. They were like, fine.
Although earlier, one of the David Jordan, who's one of the kind of two infamous like police officers who were one of the commanding officers at the scene, like they were kind of infamous for like giving the order to kind of charge and tear gas the protesters. Before he kind of engaged us in conversation and was kind of like, how are you guys doing? Wish I had gotten a few more hours of sleep. Stay safe out there. Yeah.
Yeah. It was nice. Shelley, how's the app going?
Okay.
All right.
People are, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so send us your questions and we can answer.
Tricker7101 donated 100 Hong Kong dollars. Thank you.
Oh, awesome, thank you.
Z Fjord donated $5 and said, thank you all for always being amazing. Well, thank you.
Always being amazing? Do you think we're always amazing?
So somebody asked us how the citizens of Hong Kong feel about the turnover. Do some wish Great Britain had made a bigger effort to hold on to them, or do they not care for the Brits too much either? I think in the past, the sentiment for the British had not been very high, but as it got closer to being turned over to mainland China, I think the Hong Kong people, in retrospect, are not very happy about how the British handled it. They kind of feel that especially the younger generations, that the UK kind of like sold them out to the China.
We interviewed Emily Lau, a Hong Kong legislator, for years, and she actually at the time asked Margaret Thatcher if it was morally defensible to hand over a city of 5 million at the time to a communist dictatorship.
Yeah, so...
Margaret Thatcher was like, oh, everyone loves it except for you, you're strange.
Yeah, I mean, at the time, Emily Lau was a reporter for the Far Eastern Economic Review, so, right. A lot of people, and we've done some episodes about this in the past, how there was kind of some weird shenanigans going on, because a lot of the former British colonies, they basically got the upper opportunity to vote for their own independence, and the people of Hong Kong did not. And there was some weird things going on at the UN where Hong Kong was not classified as a colony briefly, so that they wouldn't get this type of right that like a lot of other...
Is that after mainland China became the China in the UN?
Yes.
Okay.
That was one of the things that they kind of slid in there. And so there was not really a choice to the Hong Kong people about whether they wanted to stay with the UK or be given to the PRC or be able to like somehow become independent. But also there were reports that like at the time, you know, even as...
I'm going to interrupt for a second. So, this is Matt. What you're looking at now is a boatload of people arriving at the location where the flag raising ceremony is. You can see it's a white boat with a yellow roof, and it may be a way that they're delivering people for the flag raising ceremony without having to go through the massive police barricades, because it's possible that if Carrie Lam or others were to arrive by road, it would be almost impossible for them to get through without being potentially blocked by protesters. So this seems kind of like a sneaky way. They bring them on a boat from somewhere else.
Yeah, there's only one road open really, and it's on the other side of the convention center. So
They're basically trying to set up a nice shot of the flag raising ceremony. So, you know, there'll be footage of the flag raising ceremony going on nice, like there's no problem. But meanwhile, you don't see all of this. Oh, here's some protesters here's some press trying to approach the police line. I wonder how this is going to go for them. Oh, they're just taking footage.
let's see.
Oh, and so back to what Shelley was saying. Currently, there is still some resentment towards the UK in that they are not doing enough. Like, basically, the UK had made an agreement with China about the rights of Hong Kong called the Sino-British Joint Declaration, and China has basically trashed that thing. And the UK really is not being like, hey, you're not holding up your side of the bargain to this. And so that's kind of angered angered a lot of people in Hong Kong that they haven't done what the British said they would do. They basically hung out Hong Kong to dry. Shelley, question.
Sorry.
Oh, Shelley's doing some tweeting. We'll pull up some more of your questions in just a moment.
Okay, let's see.
Let me see if any of my messages are going through.
So, Zeroth Poskla
Is that an
Gomer
Asimov reference?
said donated $50 and said, "Great job, Shelley and Chris. Is there any risk of you two getting blacklisted by Hong Kong immigration?" I sincerely hope not. That was actually a concern for us because we had been here in Hong Kong during the Umbrella Movement, hadn't had any trouble, but of course we were much smaller then. We had like 66,000 subscribers back in 2014. So, like, you know, people weren't really paying attention to what we were doing. And we came back in 2016. That wasn't a problem because there wasn't anything interesting going on at the time. So when we came in this time, we were a little worried that we would get stopped at immigration. Did not at all.
Yeah, because we have friends who have been stopped here. We're like Benedict Rogers, UK-based activist. He was denied entry, and we actually just found out another friend of ours, Zhou Fengsuo, a Tiananmen Square massacre survivor. He tried to come here for the protest and was stopped at the airport as well, not allowed to enter.
Yeah, they tried to the immigration officers basically tried to forcibly put him on a plane back to the U.S. So he actually got hurt a little bit. And then he ended up taking a flight to Taiwan, where this all happened yesterday morning. So yeah, it's unfortunate to see that happening because there was also like a Filipino former official who had been critical of the Chinese Communist Party and the Philippines' policy toward China in the South China Sea. Also tried to go to Hong Kong last week and was stopped. Although some reports say that might have been because of something going on with his diplomatic passport, but. Yeah, it was. It's kind of concerning to see people getting blocked in that way because.
I do just want to point out that there seems to be a fresh line of police in those riot vests or whatever coming closer, and this does kind of sync up as a boat of people went to the flag raising ceremony. So I suspect that as it gets closer to the actual event, they are going to be upping security even more. But back to the question. At this point, we certainly have been seen by police and like at these protests. So we are a little concerned about what might happen in the future if we try to come back to Hong Kong. And really, after the last thing we want to do is get on a 16-hour flight to Hong Kong and find out at the airport that we can't get in.
Okay, James Johnson donated $5 and asked, what is the flag raising ceremony? Is the ceremony why people are here at this moment? Do you want to answer?
Sure. So the brief rundown on that is July 1st, which is today, is the anniversary of when the UK gave Hong Kong to China. So every July 1st, there's this flag raising ceremony where the chief executive of Hong Kong raises the Hong Kong flag and raises the People's Republic of China's flag. And it's supposed to be like this warm, patriotic event. However, because of all the protests that have been happening this year, they were very concerned that protesters would try to interfere with that.
And let's try to get some translation.
Oh, so we're going to try and get some translation of this. So while Shelley's doing that, I'll keep trying to answer that question. So they basically erected all the security to prevent protesters from interfering with the flag-raising ceremony.
Talking, I don't know if they can hear what the police are saying.
破壞社政府嘅公物，請你停止這非法活動。呢個係政府嘅警告。呢個警方嘅警告，請接嚟正在參與非法集結嘅示威者，停止喺龍合街嘅位置用一啲硬物去挖掘地上嘅磚頭。警方而家已經說服緊你哋，請你哋停止自己手上嘅非法活動。你哋係衝入去揼佢哋。
Trying to get some translation.
Someone is saying in the comments that police is saying this is an illegal rally. They're giving a warning. Ooh, that sounds terrible in whatever language it is.
Oh, the guy with the flags is kind of moving out. I wonder if they're going to start raising flags, saying something, something, something. So, guys, stick around for this live because this might get very interesting.
Police are saying that protesters are digging up bricks. Are they? We can't see kind of where they are right now. I would be surprised because like in the past they've actually glued down the bricks so the protesters could not dig them up.
So yeah, if any of you speak Cantonese, please let us know in the comments like what translations you're hearing because we can't really hear a lot of this. So also the language they're using is interesting. They're calling it an illegal rally, which is different from June 12th when they called it organized riot. So they definitely toned down the language.
Look, we're sorry about the spam porn chat bots going on in the. Unfortunately,
What's happening?
There's like a bunch of bots in the. We're really sorry about that. I'm not like on this chat as China Uncensored, so I can't moderate anything. Really sorry.
Okay, sorry about that.
I also can't make other people mods since I'm not logged in. Okay, what's happening? Can anybody translate for us?
All we know is that the police have. I don't have exact translation.
They're saying the police are warning them again. Okay. Yes,
Yeah.
We're actually on live right now. Yeah,
no problem. Just you'll be on camera. Also, this is interesting. It seemed like it'll be interesting to see how protesters respond to this. Police are definitely trying to get this broken up.
So we're hearing that the police have taken up a more kind of aggressive warning tone to leave the protest, telling the protesters to leave.
Yeah. And I really wonder, like the police told us when we were on the other side of them that we weren't safe back there, but I feel much less safe in front of the police.
So the police have been saying they're warning that the protesters are doing illegal activities, leave according to the orders.
Somehow, I don't think the protesters are going to listen to the police. So again, what's interesting is that the flag-raising ceremony is supposed to be this nice propaganda thing for the Chinese Communist Party to show that Hong Kong is happily a part of mainland China, and these protesters are really throwing a wrench into that plan.
So the protesters are being very polite, saying please, and asking the police to please be considerate. Trying to give a few seconds of space so that Cantonese speakers can help us what the protesters are saying if they can hear it.
Basically, we have a friend in Australia who's trying to do some Cantonese translation for us. I think the police were saying that there were protesters grabbing bricks. We haven't seen anything like that. But also, as you can see, there's a lot of press here. And if the police really actually tried to do something, well, it'd be on camera for the world to see, including you guys doing this live.
I think, yeah, so they're saying that the protesters are saying we can see the government using inappropriate methods against us.
And thank you again for joining us and being here with us live during this this moment. This is not something that happens too often, and now things are kind of calm again.
People are asking how many protesters we think there are. There are several thousand back there.
Yeah, it's hard to say because there's like several roads where there are more lines of police and protesters, so it's hard for us to kind of estimate how many people. There's also supposed to be a rally today at 2.
Yes.
And we don't know how many people are going to come out to that. It could be big.
Yeah, that's the kind of traditional July 1st protest celebration, kind of like defiantly that they can still protest in Hong Kong, even though they've been given to the PRC.
Yeah, we saw a protest sign saying, if you don't come out today, you can't come out tomorrow, which I think is a pretty popular sentiment here.
Yeah, basically the idea that, like, yeah, this is the last chance for us to try to keep our freedoms, more or less.
And I think it would be a mistake for police to do something like pretty hardcore this morning, because that, I think, would only motivate more people to come out later today at 2. So that's got to be in the back of their minds, that there is this rally happening at 2, unless they're really planning a major crackdown.
No, I mean, the rally at 2 is a legal rally. The group that has set it up has, like, gone to the police, gotten the proper permits, like, everything. The police are calling this an illegal rally. So that's why they're saying they can clear it. They're going to, if the protesters don't leave.
I'm just a tourist. I'm lost. Does anyone know what's happening? I'm just trying to get some roast goose. Because I think my goose might be cooked.
This is why you come to China Uncensored, for your quality Hong Kong protest coverage.
You won't get this from CNN. No, sir. No, ma'am. All right. I guess we can it's quiet again. We'll take some more questions.
Okay. There's not any more questions that I can see from the super chat.
Okay,
So let's
we'll
see.
just take a question. Again, sorry for the spam bots. We actually can't do anything about that right now because we are not logged
Yeah, we
logged in
appreciate
properly.
You guys. This is our first, like, this trip has been our first live, so we're kind of like learning as we go on the front. Ben Smith gave $20 and said,
Thanks.
Thank you for the live coverage. Stay safe, guys. Well, the police have told us that we're definitely safe up here. Between the police and the protesters. They didn't want us behind the police lines because they thought that would be unsafe for us.
Yeah, so we're much safer on the side that the rubber bullet rifles are pointing.
Don't see any pointing yet. Actually, they haven't been using them lately. When they've cleared the last few protests, the police have just kind of charged with their riot shields. Yeah. So we have that to look forward to.
I mean, these past couple of weeks have just been a lesson in, like, a PR disaster. Like, everything was handled terribly by the police, by Hong Kong Chief Executive Carrie Lam. Her press conferences were an absolute disaster. Like, they have not been smart about any of this. The protesters, however, have been really smart about how they've handled everything. They've been very fluid. They've been very decentralized. A lot of decisions are made on, social media.
Yeah, I've been on some of these Telegram chats where they put polls up to ask people what they should do. Like, what color should the flag be at our, alternate flag raising rally? Should we stay here overnight or should we come back in the morning? All this kind of stuff. And it's also like trying to drink from a fire hose because, like, you look away for a minute and there's like 500 new messages on some of these Telegram groups because they have like 20,000, 40,000 people in them. So that's fun. We're looking at more police vans driving up now. Yeah, several more policemen driving up.
Yeah, and there's some more police buses in the background with lights flashing. So I don't know. Maybe they'll try and do something. Unfortunately, we are also caught between barricades. So if we have to fall back, that might be a little difficult for us. Somehow, I think everything's going to work out fine. Famous last words.
Oh, okay. Somebody said the ceremony will be indoors because of the weather. That was something that they had said was a possibility.
Oh my gosh, this weather is so horrible. Oh, they can't have a flag raising ceremony outside. This weather is just awful. Just the flag would blow away. I mean, you can see, guys, the weather's just too. You have to do the flag raising ceremony indoors.
I'm just trusting the guy in the chat who said that because I have not been able to look at anything right now. But
What we're zoomed in on now, it's a bit grainy, but there's 3 vertical white poles, which normally I believe would be the flag poles, but there's no flags on them. So they either haven't started raising the flag ceremony or they were doing it inside, but that's also super weird, right?
Yeah, well, sometimes it's hard to get your flag up. It happens to every city and country from time to time.
somebody asked if we have gear to protect us from tear gas. We do.
Yeah, the Hong Kong Press Association, I think it was called. They gave out Journalists Association. They gave out free vests, helmets, and some goggles, and also pretty decent masks for filtering out tear gas. Not just like the normal,
not like a surgical mask, but actually it has a filter on the front.
Yeah. We don't actually have those on us because they're bulky. They're in Matt's backpack in case something really goes wrong. But yeah, apparently later on, the Journalists Association was able to get vests with like press actually printed on it. We just had to write it in ourselves, so we look very professional, which I think is why some people have said, "Are you press?"
Or are you just poor lost tourists who have wandered around behind police lines?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to check Twitter to see if there's anything going on here.
So, yeah, it's hard to say if they're actually going to try and do something or if these are just intimidation tactics. But I don't think protesters are too intimidated. Really, I'm amazed at the idea of, like, hoisting a flag that says #FreedomHK onto balloons. By the way, that's the hashtag protesters are using. So if you are doing any kind of social media posts about this, be sure to include #FreedomHK.
So apparently we're on Lungwo Road, and then there are protesters one road over on Harcourt Road, and they're trying to move barriers onto that road, and the police have put up a yellow warning flag on that road. So there's stuff going on all around us.
Wasn't that where we just were?
No, we were on the Fenwick, Pier Road.
Okay.
So there's Harcourt is kind of more over that way than we were, over by Admiralty.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So stay with us, guys. Things could get interesting very quick.
Okay. So, trying to see what's going on. I'm also just trying to check Twitter to see if people who are in other areas.
Okay. Do you want to pull up a question real quick? I can maybe start answering that while you check the Twitters. So, Merry Christmas 2.0 gave $10. Thank you. And it's a nice quote from the Bible. Thank you. Let's see. Any other questions?
Someone's asking if we can see more of the protesters. Yeah, Matt, you want to move that?
Yeah, we'll stand this way so you can see the protesters. Again, we're in a pretty good position right now in case anything happens, so we don't want to actually go over these barricades and actually get close to the protesters. Well, I mean, we might later see how it happens. This would actually be a good way to kind of interview some protesters.
So also behind us there is an MTRA subway station where protesters are apparently kind of getting off the train and joining. So there's more protesters kind of coming up
in.
this way too. Yeah.
For those who did not want to be here at sunrise when we were so dehydrated.
Yeah. So also just because the MTR wasn't running before like 5 in the morning, so
Oh, right,
like, if
unlike
you went
New York.
home last night, then you had to kind of stay there until this morning.
Yeah, unlike New York, excuse me, we haven't slept much. Yeah, unlike New York, the subways don't run all night. Because this is a city that sleeps a little bit. It seems like I can't tell if the police buses are driving away, doing a 3-point turn, or just blocking the streets and becoming barricades themselves.
Someone's asking me on Twitter whether the vest is required for all press, or is it and hat are required by press, or if it's a choice made by us. I mean, like, Matt, you can swing over to like look at the other media that are here. So some people have like different types of helmets on, but generally the idea is the yellow vests kind of keep you visible, so you can let the police and the protesters know that you are not a protester.
Especially when all the protesters are wearing black.
So most of the press have yellow vests on, and then the hard hats. Everybody has a hat, whether they're wearing them or not right now. We're kind of wearing ours because we're just...
It's difficult to carry them anywhere else.
And so it's just kind of like in case things start getting... And like you can see people have goggles on and things like that.
Talking to the mic.
Yeah, so we have goggles, like we have the goggles and the masks too. We're just not wearing them right now. But yeah, so basically they've put the press in between the police and the protesters.
Yeah. Also, I will say a lot of the police buses that kind of drove up a moment ago, they're making 3-point turns and driving away. So I don't really know.
I mean, they've unloaded some cops, so that might be...
That could be. Maybe it's just going back to get more. At first, I thought they were going to be using those as like barricades across the streets.
Occasionally you'll see them kind of line up the police vans behind the barricades as like another layer of barricade.
So, happy Hong Kong Reunification Day. So, some new guys are marching over
They've
in some serious vests. One guy has some fancy red gloves on.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the difference is between the riot police in the blue with the shields versus the riot police in the blue with the vests and the shields. If anybody knows, can let us know. Someone saying, stay safe, random journalists. Yes, let's hope everybody stays safe.
Yeah, it seems like they are switching out the front line for slightly more hardcore guys.
Yeah, they have batons out.
Yeah.
A little closer.
All right, we're going closer.
Somebody,
Into the mic, Shelley.
Danis D00 asked if we've ever been gassed for. No. But there's a first time for everything.
I do want to say again, Matt is doing amazing camera work. He is not only filming this live, in his other hand he's holding another camera where we're getting footage for an episode that we will do later today that will cover this event as well as the rally that's supposed to happen at 2. And again, that rally is something that's been organized every year. It's like they have all the permits and stuff. Oh, some guy in a suit is walking to the police. That's interesting. He seems like he knows what he's doing. Policeman's holding out his hand, showing some kind of ID, and he's going through. Maybe if I had worn a suit, I could have gone through.
Yeah, Chris, this is the one time we really needed you to wear this. Okay. So the protester on the loudspeaker right now is talking about how 2 million people have shown their opposition to the government's actions, like narrating about the protests. Again, being very polite and just kind of like explaining the situation to the police. I think trying to kind of diffuse things a little bit.
Thank you again for everyone joining us. We don't know if the flag raising has actually happened yet. We can kind of see the flagpoles in the distance and there are no flags on them. We have heard that they might be moving the flag raising ceremony inside because of bad weather. Which, I mean, you can see the weather is not in Beijing's favor, let's say.
So the protesters are kind of trying to like negotiate with the police, talking about how the youth are just expressing themselves. Please avoid aggressive actions, basically.
如果一陣間你哋要執行公務嘅，請你留意翻，你係一個人，係一個香港人，你哋可以選擇點樣執行嘅公務。但係如果你哋因為最近嘅事件，對在場人士有誤解、有憤怒、有情緒失控。
And so just a heads up, what's going to happen if by any chance it does become kind of, if it becomes crazy, Matt's going to hand me the live camera, and he's going to be shooting it with his other camera, so we'll carry Will on.
Yeah, the police, they're saying that, you know, the protesters are not hurting anyone. They're reminding police that the police are also Hong Kongers. You know, we don't want anything to get out of hand. There's like some anticipation things might get ugly here. We don't want things to get to that point. 我哋唔希望6月12號嘅暴力清場事件再次發生，包括警務人員對於跌倒在地上嘅人。
So yeah, thanks for sticking around, and like I think there are some Coast Guard vessels in the water nearby.
Saying, please, we don't want a repeat of what happened on June 12th. The police have abused their power, but we don't want a repeat of June 12th, which is the day that the police kind of shot 150 tear gas canisters into the protesting crowd. They're reminding police that they're supposed to be protecting the youth. The protesters are not being violent.
And I gotta say, a lot of these police people, there's men and women here, they're pretty young. A lot of the guys in blue are fairly young people, so I don't know what they're feeling right now.
Yeah, a lot of the protesters are pretty young too, even younger, smaller looking.
Like if I became a policeman, I would not imagine that this would then be my job. But, I mean, that's what happens under communist dictatorships, which is what they're trying to avoid here in Hong Kong, to questionable success. So yeah, I'm still looking over there at the flag poles. They sent in a boatload of people there to kind of get around all the blockades, and a bunch of people have gathered around the flag poles. Earlier, we also saw a helicopter fly in and land there. We suspect that might be how Carrie Lam, the Hong Kong chief executive, got there. So they might be trying to go ahead with the flag-raising ceremony.
I think also, actually a sign that they might be doing it indoors after all is the expo center you're looking at behind the police. They were supposed to have a few different expos going on, including like a pet expo up until yesterday, but they made them shut down early. They made them end on Saturday. So that could be a sign that they were kind of prepping the expo center for the flag-raising ceremony. Yeah. The police are talking amongst themselves. I think they might be actually kind of looking at us.
Will you take the mic for a moment, Shelley?
I have to say one difference that we're seeing today from past protests, like when the protesters were outside the police headquarters, is that there is no chanting or anything going on from the protest. When we were outside police headquarters with the protesters, there was a lot of shouting at the police, telling them to come out, saying that they were being corrupt police, things like that. But now the protesters are being very quiet. The woman on the loudspeaker was just saying, if you use violence under such circumstances, just trying to tell the police that the police are there, supposed to be there to protect the people, not hurt the people. She said about ensure this is ingrained in your brain that police are supposed to be protecting the people, not hurting the people. Femi J gave $20 and said, "Don't give up hope. That's what they want. The day of freedom will come. Not far anymore. The regime is dying out." Thank
Good
you.
sentiment. Thank you.
立法會議員嘅身份重申喺龍和道呢一帶，我唔知道你哋係咪打算作出任何嘅行動。其實你只要守住喺呢條線，基本上就唔會有衝突。如果你哋
Now the protesters have a message for the politicians.
係冇必要嘅，因為無論如何你點都係封呢條路㗎啦。你無論如何點都
They're saying, "Are you guys planning anything
封咗成條路。
to do any activities? If you maintain the status quo, there will not be any damage caused."
And a big shout out to our friend Caroline in Australia, who is helping us do this translation, because we don't speak Cantonese.
咁我亦都唔知道，即係到時候直播點啦。其實你可以錄影㗎，即係嗰啲電視台可以錄影㗎啦，錄影之後播翻咯。實際一個地方係咪有都唔知嘅，因為根本啲市民都入唔到去嘅，係咪？咁而我哋本來好多在場嘅市民，我哋就話想去睇升旗。咁無論你信定唔信都好啦，我哋都唔希望咧，好似6月12號
They're saying you want to video us.
事件再次發生。
That should be enough. Don't take unnecessary
對
steps.
於使用橡膠子彈有相當嚴格嘅規定，你唔需要嚟到去話啊，你都唔係爭我哋知乜嘢啊，你自己睇到。
Up. They're putting
All right.
They're putting their helmets on, masks on.
Okay. Okay. Let me just step in front of this. This is getting a little exciting. So stay with us. We don't know what's going to be happening, but they're kind of assembling. Riot police with shields are kind of lining up. So I don't know if this means they're going to do something or it's just kind of intimidation, scare tactics. Definitely, basically, it's maybe like 1,000 protesters, maybe 100 or so riot police, and then the press sandwiched in between them.
So the protesters are asking the police to please stand with the people. Do not hurt the citizens. That's not necessary.
That's the movement behind us.
So also what I'm seeing on Twitter is that the MTR, the subway system, is trying to shut down some of the exits leading out of the subway, and protesters are trying to keep those open. So there's more protesters coming in from the subway station behind us. And another road, there's like another kind of confrontation going on with police and protesters across a road. And on that one, the warning flag from the police has gone up a few times.
Hong Kong police on the line. We'll get some translation as soon as we can.
Yellow flag is a warning, red flag is potential baton pepper sprays. Now there's a war of loudspeakers.
Bear with us, we're trying to get some translation.
Police are saying leave. Those protesters are saying, our message said, listen to the police, leave now. The protesters are saying, no need to use violence, don't hurt citizens. There are protocols for no rubber bullets, there's conditions to use that violence. We're seeing more riot police come back and form a second line behind this current line. The official message from the police is leave now.
Do you think we should have our little gas mask things at the ready? It's hard to know how to prepare for this. Like Shelley and I have our helmets on, we have our press vest. I have my goggles around my neck. We also were given some masks that filter out like tear smoke.
The protesters are saying that you're bullying the citizens. You guys are over to the top. We also have confirmation that they've moved the flag raising to inside to do the rainy day plan. Some of the protesters are flipping off the police. Police are saying move back.
mean, how pathetic is this? They had to move the flag-raising ceremony inside. That just shows how little, like, the Hong Kong government does not have the will of the people.
And as you can see, there's a deluge flood monsoon right now, which means, of course, they could not raise the flag in this totally clear weather. I mean, there are clouds, but yeah.
I mean, Hong Kong, one of the greatest cities in the world, has become incredibly pathetic. So, a bunch of protesters.
Move back, please move back, protesters. Police are still being pretty polite. Something's going on, I think, over next to us. Some of the press are running off to the other street.
Do you want to run and I'll hold this?
Yeah.
Okay, so come back here. So, is that...
Flip it around.
Flip it around. Okay, I see. All right, so I have been given camera responsibility. Matt is... So something has happened on the side of the protesters, and a bunch of press are running over that way to get some footage of it.
We're trying to see what's going on over here.
Yeah, so Matt might get some footage. Lots of... Oh, yeah, they're running. We're trying... You know, unfortunately, unlike CNN, we don't have multiple teams, so this is just us here, so... Unfortunately, to be in multiple places, it means to divide the team. So Matt ran off to cover whatever's happening over there. Hopefully he'll text us. Maybe send him a text to... Wait a minute. His phone is what's doing this live. Okay. So... someone says to throw a booger. I don't think I'll do that. And I don't think I need to run now. This is not about flags. That's what somebody says, and that is absolutely true. So what's your food? So, you know, I see one of the young ladies who is helping Joshua Wong, so I don't know if Joshua Wong is nearby. Actually, is that Josh? Yeah, it's Joshua Wong over there. I am less good at this than Matt. Oh gosh, it's spinning. Okay. Okay. Oh, okay. I am not the cameraman. It's over that way. Let me kind of a round row of police.
Protesters are protesting that they're not going to be violent. We're peaceful citizens. We have no intention of being violent. Don't just jump to conclusions to the police. Now the police are talking again. We're hearing the protesters beating something, like a drum beat kind of thing. They're saying, the protesters are saying, we hope you don't use any violent opposition. Oh, there's Nathan Law holding the loudspeaker. We hope we can talk to the police without any misunderstandings. No unnecessary violence like that of June 12th. Police said your behavior have affected society and order.
Oh my gosh, society and order. I wonder if he comes up with that stuff himself.
I'm pretty sure they have things that they're supposed to say. I don't think they can like improv here.
Matt is running back. He's telling us to come.
Number one, there's some very angry police and protesters over there. Number two, I'm getting batteries for my phone, for my camera.
Should we come with you, Matt?
Yeah, come on over. Just jump over.
So apparently something has happened somewhere else. Matt had run off to check it. We are going over there. So stay with us, guys. Things are oh my gosh, a cameraman almost dropped his camera. All right, Matt's running. Oh my gosh, I have a giant camera bag banging into sensitive bits. This is, yeah, he'll never understand, Shelley. Okay, apologize for any shaky footage. This is us running at the moment. Not away from anything, but towards something. because that's how the China Uncensored team rolls. So, let's see what's happening here. So, Shelley, can you hold the mic? I just got to adjust some things.
Yes, sure.
Flipping it around.
All right.
So this is the scene where we're at now.
Much closer between the police and the protesters.
Here, let's get closer.
The police all have their face shields down, which is a great sign, I think.
Here we go.
You can see some protesters trying to kind of calm the crowd down and direct over there.
And there's Matt. Ever vigilant. Yeah, I think a lot of people are upset. Private Eye talks about what a disgrace the UK is. Definitely that is a feeling of some Hong Kongers that the UK really abandoned its obligations. Oh, there is a broken brick at my feet. I can't make the camera go. All right.
All right.
Okay. Back to us. So I'm just trying to move the camera. I am not a cameraman, so I'm still trying to get used to this thing.
So one of the things they're definitely yelling is against the extradition bill, but the other thing I can't quite tell. I've started to
Oh,
recognize.
hey, it's that guy coming forward. Oh.
It's that's he took the bricks.
Ooh. Matt's going. Unfortunately, there's a barrier in front of me, and I won't be able to jump over it. So things are angry and people are... People are very unhappy. And that is Matt, our Matt, right there in the yellow, right in front of all of this. You can see people are very upset. Let me see if I can zoom.
You can see people are kind of taunting the police, kind of being like, come on. They're saying, go Hong Kongers.
Go, Matt.
Police said, thank you for cooperating. Please leave now.
Everyone's cheering Matt, and yes, Matt is incredible. There he is looking at us. Oh.
Police are trying to de-escalate, it looks like.
Definitely the surge of press here has changed the dynamic, I think.
There's somebody saying, protect Hong Kong citizens.
They're moving.
I think they're start charging battalions. They're kind of lining up in rows. We're probably trying to clear the protesters right now.
Well, someone does make the point the lines are very thin.
The chanting was go Hong Kongers, Hong Kong people, add oil, basically. So someone's telling me another live footage near Admiralty Station is showing police using pepper spray.
Also, if you can see here, I'm zooming in. They have that banner up that says police line, police cordon, do not cross.
Yeah, that's their warning banner, basically.
So
If they
we'll
put the
see.
red one up, it basically means that they might use force.
How we doing?
We're doing good. Matt, people have been cheering you for being in the footage of all that. Say hello to your adoring audience.
Hey guys.
Wait, I'm flipping it around so you can see Matt.
Hey, my theory is that the more journalists there are between protesters and police, the less likely things are to escalate. Although I'm now questioning that because they're starting to raise the flags. There's the police cordon do not cross flag, which I think applies to me as well, but I'm going to ignore it because I think that ultimately we all are safer with more press. When they put up the warning tear gas black flag, that might be a sign to move out of the way, though. Hopefully that does not happen.
Oh, do you have a battery for this?
I don't have a battery for the phone. Ultimately, what we're going to have to do, if the battery runs out, we're going to unplug the microphone, plug in the charger, and keep running it with audio only from here.
Oh, okay. So just a heads up, we have 10% left of battery on our phone, which means, can you get that set up for me, Shelley?
I don't have the long... Do I have the long cord?
So what's going to happen is we have an external charger, but that plugs into the same place where the microphone is. So we'll just have external audio. So that might get not so good. Yes, let's just do this now. So we're going to lose this audio. Just hang with us for a moment. Do you want to hold this?
Plug. Make sure that's on. Hold this somewhere.
This is
All right, now turn this back on. All right, hopefully
Okay.
that'll last.
Can you wrap this up, Shelley?
Yep.
And I'll figure out a place to keep this. So I don't know how well you can hear me. Let me know how well you can hear me. But so basically our live streaming thing has almost run out of battery. So we have plugged in a charger. Unfortunately, that means we now no longer have our microphone plugged in. How's the audio, guys? Let me know.
Thanks, Apple.
Thanks, Apple. Mic is good. Okay, great. I'm glad you guys can still hear me. I'm going to flip it around so you can see what's going on. Again, there's Matt being brave. They have wrapped up the, what do you call them, the police banners. So they maybe are backing down a bit. I don't know. Okay, glad to know the audio is good. This is better than the mic we were using? This audio is better than the mic we used. Don't worry, we have plugged in the phone to a charger, so we won't be losing power anytime soon. So we've got plenty of juice. We've just had to change how our microphone setup is. Okay, for now I'll kind of just speak a little closer to the phone, so the audio will be good. Obviously, if something goes a little nuts, things might get a little crazy. Once again, there's Matt. Yeah, we were actually pretty lucky how we got like right in the heart of it. As we were leaving our hotel, we saw a line of riot police heading over here. So we just followed them. We ended up behind police lines for a little while until they eventually told us to come forward. The chief is kind of shouting some orders to the policemen. I don't know what that means. They're bringing forward their cameras. So this is a big thing police have been doing. They've been shooting footage of whatnot.
So the front line of umbrellas is not just for in case there's pepper spray or tear gas, it's also to protect people's identities from being seen by the police cameras.
Just in case you didn't hear that, Shelley was saying the umbrellas are also to protect people's identities. Also, if you want to follow, there's a guy on Twitter called Hong Kong Hermit who is doing some pretty great live updates of this. So I also recommend checking him out. You hear Shelley too, great.
Yeah, he's on another road, so you can see kind of different things happening.
Yeah. I have no idea what that sound is. Oh, I think protesters are banging some aluminum siding over there. Which I don't think
police like that.
No, I don't like it, I'm afraid. Oh, and there's this guy. This guy was nice to us earlier, but he's kind of got a reputation for being the one who ordered some of the more hardline crackdown. I'm behind the line. Here are the protesters again over there. Aaron M. donated 100 Hong Kong dollars. Thank you. Your question disappeared. But, do you have some?
So the police were saying, please stop that inappropriate behavior. Stop that behavior now. The banging, I imagine. And then they thanked the protesters for stopping. There's a very polite confrontation between the police and the protesters.
Whoa, did somebody say Guilo? I'm offended. So just going to show you some of these guys over here. So, you know, the thing that guy's got on his back, those are the different banners that they hold up to warn people of stuff. Police sirens in the distance.
They were kind of the commander, the white guy, David Jordan. He was up here gesturing and showing some things to one of the other officers. So I wonder if they were kind of planning how to break up the protesters.
So I'm going to flip around real quick. So yeah, Shelley and I are still here, reporting on all of this, trying to figure out how the camera works. Yeah, the yellow vests are basically a sign of reporters. Our mic is also, I might have to bring the camera awkwardly close to answer your questions. But yeah, pretty much everyone wearing yellow vests.
The guy who's speaking right now is, I think he's Ray Kwong. He's a legislator. He's a Hong Kong.
Some ambulances. And some more heavy-duty police people back there. I did just see somebody take out a baton back there, so that's not great. Yeah, I don't know if you can see it, but there are definitely... Oh, maybe I can try and zoom. But there's some... yeah, those guys back there in some pretty serious gear. Probably taking some pretty serious gear. So we'll see what happens.
So the legislator, he's saying we don't want anything untoward to happen. We know what's going on. Is that the police is saying cooperate with police? They're doing their job? Oh, okay. The guy who was saying, who was the legislator talking, was saying cooperate with the police. They're just doing their job. He's trying to calm people down. The chants just now were police are liars. So I'm not sure that worked.
What happened? The camera thing went screwy and I don't know how to fix it.
Rotate device back.
Huh? What does it say?
Orientation is locked. What did you press?
Nothing. I think like it got bumped or something. So maybe if I just turn that on. Ah, there we go. Sorry for that. I did not break it. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. So meanwhile, the flag raising ceremony is happening indoors. So if you're just joining us, what this is all about is that today, July 1st, is the anniversary of when the UK gave Hong Kong to China. So every year there's a flag raising ceremony, sort of patriotic thing to show how much Hong Kong enjoys being part of mainland China. Except they were concerned this year that all the protesters would interrupt it. So they set up massive security around it, layers and layers of man-sized barricades, armies of riot police, all to prevent people from getting anywhere near the flag-raising ceremony. In fact, it got so bad they actually have decided to hold the flag-raising ceremony indoors. So this is a real pathetic loss of face for the Hong Kong government.
I just saw about half an hour ago the MTR, which is like the subway, closed to 2 stations here and where the Wan Chai, which is where the flag raising ceremony is happening. So they've shut down those 2 stations at the request of police. Those trains aren't stopping there.
So we're not escaping that way.
So they were trying to keep more people from coming, I think, because like earlier today, a lot of the protesters, the MTR started running again around 5-ish in the morning, so a lot of people came in. Only a couple of thousand people were here overnight, maybe less than that, but now there's more. So they're trying to keep more protesters from getting in. And same thing they did actually on June 12th and to stop the trains running at these stations.
So I think Matt was definitely right, since, and there he is again, since
we've got about 15 press on this side of the barrier that I'm next to, and then there's a bunch of press even more behind. And the police kind of said that they didn't want us here. They kept telling us to go away, but ultimately I think it's better for everyone because it has de-escalated significantly since all these press have joined. Basically stepped in the middle. And yeah, it's de-escalated a little bit, although you really never know what's about to happen.
Stop pressing.
I'm not pressing it, it just does that.
All right, had some gimbal issues there, should be good. Okay. The button here.
Yeah, I didn't press it. A few more police have shown up in the back there. Can't really get an angle on it. Oh, if you couldn't hear Matt, basically what he's saying is There's basically a lot of press around here now. Police had told them to leave, but they didn't because they're press, especially Matt, who's right there. And so it seems like press presence has de-escalated the situation a lot. I also see the CNN drone flying around. I really wish we had a drone right now.
We're kind of in a similar situation that we were on the other road where there's kind of...
Well, I am just going to try and get a zoom in on all of those guys in the background there. So there's some more serious dudes. Oh, I don't know where the camera is looking. We'll call them Team Black Sheep. That's good. They're shouting Hong Kong Jiao. So that's nice. Servatus S donated $50. Thank you. Found your channel because of AVD China saying your information is accurate, but you're biased. That's not my experience. You guys do great work in Real Journal. Keep it up. Be safe. Much love from Indiana. Thank you.
Aaron donated 100 Hong Kong and said, be careful guys, cameras only act as a shield until the canisters fly. Police aren't good at differentiating between protesters and the people. Be careful of insiders too. The people banging could be mainland plants. That has been a concern for the protesters. They've tried very hard to make sure that people are not, kind of escalating the situation on their side. Oh.
So the gimbal keeps shutting off because I think it's almost out of battery. Yep. So I might have to switch to handheld. I'd love to get on the Joe Rogan show. Oh, hey, they're backing up. All right. So they're retreating. I am going to turn off the gimbal and... All right. Can you... I'm not pressing the button. The gimbal's out of battery. Can you unhook it? So they're backing up, except we're not because we're having technical issues.
Oh, God.
Okay.
The gimbal is like super hot.
Okay, all right. So we're handheld now. It might get a little shakier, but hey. So, yeah, they backed up. Shows they're kind of giving way.
I don't know if it might have been...
They might be retreating to de-escalate, but they might be retreating to charge. So I'm going to get back to the center barrier here and film what happens.
Thank you, Matt. Be safe.
I hear more yelling coming from the other road, further over there. Lots of yelling. So